Hey, welcome back to Outbuilding. Thanks for tuning in. I am going to try something here, and if you see this video, that means it probably kind of worked. I have read a little bit about propagating Douglas fir from pine cones. So I went ahead and collected a whole bunch of pine cones here the other day from one of our big trees. And the rumor is you're supposed to put these cones that have started to open up a little bit but have not expelled all their seeds yet. And I don't know if these are or not, but these all did drop this fall. And so I've got a whole bunch of pine cones here that I'm going to put in a tray, and I'm supposed to put it in the oven and warm it up, mostly just to dry them out, and they should kind of expel their seeds. All right, so moving on to part 2 of this science fair project. The first batch of pine cones I picked up kind of on a rainy day, hadn't been windy or anything, and so they were all on the ground. And I was able to get, I don't know, I've got here, I'll call it a half dozen or maybe a dozen seeds out of that. There weren't a lot of seeds left in the cones. I think the cones need to be picked in August or September from what I'm reading. All right, so it's been a few weeks. I had the seeds first in the refrigerator for 2 weeks and got them what they call stratified. The only thing I did not do was soak them in water before that, which I read later that you might want to do. There's a moist towel in here. Then I set them in a dark closet or a drawer for another close to 2 weeks. And so I'm going to try planting them in the dirt now and see. I don't know, they may be starting to sprout. They may not be. We'll wait and see. All right, so the first version of these didn't go too well. I took some pine cones that I'd found on the ground, which you can actually harvest in the winter, it turns out. But I think they were a year plus old, so they were sort of old, and I had to I went through a huge pile of them to get just a handful of seeds. And so it's just about the turn of fall, and we were out at the coast last weekend, and we collected some pine cones from Doug Firs that we could almost just shake the tree and see some of the leaves coming out. So we know that we know they were producing. So now I've got a bucket full of pine cones here that I'm gonna knock the pine cones and see if I can get the seeds to come out. I've cleaned some of these out, but I'll just kind of go through. And so these are hopefully much more productive in terms of the number of seeds and the viability of the seeds. And I'll get these loose, harvest the seeds, and then I'll do something called stratify them, where I'll put them in the fridge or actually the freezer for 30 days, 25 days, something like that. And that's just to sort of simulate the pattern of winter. So that's one cone there, and I got quite a few seeds out of that. Each of these seeds has like it's like a propeller, and it's got a little wing on it, and you kind of knock the wings off and get the seeds out of there. So I'll sort those out. All right, well, I did pretty well with that batch. And I actually found the easiest thing to do was just to get the whole bucket full of, so I've got my bucket full of cones here, and I just shook the bucket really hard, and it just knocked most of the seeds off. I've got them all off now, and all that's really coming out now is the fragments. And I've got this now, and I think if I just shake the heck out of this, I can kind of break up the little wings on them. And I don't know, I suppose I could put a couple rocks or something in there, but I can see it's kind of pulverizing the weeds. All right, I'm gonna try my little experiment here. I've got just a handful of rocks, just little pieces of basalt in this jar, and I'm gonna put a bunch of these seeds in here and see if it kind of helps grind up the shells on them. So now I read this, I got the seeds all kind of derbied up so that the holes are mostly chaff. I'm sort of getting the chaff to blow away. and save the seeds. Well, the rocks seem to actually help quite a bit. They help kind of break up the chaff, if you will. So now I've got almost pure seeds. So I just sort out the rocks and the seeds separate. All right, well, I've got them pretty well separated out. I got the rocks over here, the sort of extra bits that are just little scraps of cone and stuff, and then this is almost all seeds, so I'm just gonna call that good. All right, I got my jar of seeds, and that's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times as many as I got last time with a whole bunch of boxes of seed, or of pine cones, so definitely the right time of year. So the next step, they said, is to stratify these, and this was from an Oregon State forestry study, and they said that the stratification, which is first you soak them in water, and I think that sort of loosens up the shells of them a little bit, and then you put them in the crisper drawer for, they said, I've read different things, 21 days would work, but the study said that 42 days was quite a bit better and 84 was even better, so it's trying to simulate like an entire winter. So I'm going to fill this up with water now and let these soak, and it's supposed to be aerated, so I'll just shake this up every once in a while, and it'll help get rid of some of that chaff, because the chaff is kind of in there. Looks like they're all floating to start with, but I'm assuming they'll sink and kind of get waterlogged. And so I'll let these go overnight for 24 hours, and then I'll put them in a slurry of sand and put them in the crisper drawer, let them sit and stratify for quite a while. It's kind of a fun process. All right, it's been 42 days since I put the seeds in the fridge crisper. Once a week, I've been going into the fridge and just sort of agitating that sand mixture and making sure that it's got some air in the bag. And there's quite a bit of sand, so I'm gonna have to sort through that and find the seeds in there. Hopefully that works okay. And in the meantime, I went ahead and ordered online. This is just a warming mat. It's pretty inexpensive, and it should be able to handle 4 of these. It's a standard 10 by 20, like seeding, potting or seedling tray. So there's just a closed basin so that it'll catch any water that I put in there. And then I've got these sort of small plug cells that I'll put the seeds in and just try to get them started these nest in here, and I can get 4 of these across this tray. It's all sitting on a piece of foam, and I'm going to cut the foam out and just build a sort of a warm box, if you will, just something to kind of contain this stuff and be able to move around in this cart. And then I'm in a garage that's about 45, 50 degrees in the winter, so it's pretty cool in here, and that's why the warming mat's going to help germinate. But I can position this over where I get, such as it is, daylight that we get at this time of year coming in, so they'll get washed with light every day that it's sunny. And once they germinate, I can transfer them from these little plugs into slightly bigger pots. Anyway, I'm going to put this together today, start putting the seeds in there, and from what I understand, they'll start germinating, so we'll see how many of these get going. It'll be really fun to see, with quite a few of them here, what the sort of ratio of success is, if there is any. All right, I got my little $5 box of foam made with the heat mat down on the bottom, and I cut a little door on the end here for the power cord to come out, and I'll sort out how the rest of that stuff works once I get some seedlings going. But these trays should fit 4 of these. I think there's 50 plugs per tray, so that means as many as 200 seeds can be at least try to germinate. And I hope this little foam thing kind of helps, even though it's a colder room down here, kind of just helps them stay a little bit warmer, and I can water in here, so I can hurt the foam. Okay, so now I'm going to give this a try. I've got my bag of seeds in here in the sand, and I'm going to put it on a white tray, so hopefully I can sort out the seeds in the mix, and this might be more challenging than I think, but we'll see. And then I've got my soil and my plug tray, and so I'll fill a plug, not quite full. You're supposed to put about a ½ inch of soil on top of it, so I'll fill up a plug tray cell, and then try to find a seed in here. And I'm seeing a few of them. It's gonna just I think as this sand dries a little bit, it'll be easier to get them out. Okay, it took me a minute to start recognizing, but I did start to recognize them. So there's a seed that appears to be in good shape. I might even drop a couple in each of these. So then I'm gonna top it up with a little bit of soil and then drop a little bit of water in there. This soil I've got is a little bit moist, but I'll kind of start by getting them a little bit wet, let that soak in. And now I just have 199 more to go. So I got my first tray of 50 of them done. It didn't take too long. It probably took me 45 minutes or something, maybe 30 minutes to put them all together. At first I thought it'd be really hard to find the seeds within the sand, but once I kind of started looking at it, it was pretty easy to see. So now I'm gonna set these in my little incubator here. And I think I just need to put the temperature probe down inside of one of these cells so that it's kind of measuring a representative cell. And I'll just pick one in sort of the middle and tuck the sensor in there, and then it should heat the things to whatever temperature I put on the little thermostat. So I'll get this set up, and then I can kind of build these trays, and hopefully it's sort of uniform across there. And I've got sun coming in through the window here that I'll arrange things so that it's getting decent sunlight as that cuts across through the day. In the winter months, we don't get a ton of sun, but what we do get, I'll take advantage of. And then I'll just have to monitor these pretty carefully to see how well they how quickly they dry out from evaporation, because it is pretty dry. So then the heat mat that's underneath these cells, I've just put a little door here so I can get the power out, and I'll plug, looks like it just plugs into here so that this acts as sort of a thermostat. And I think I want to have this about 75 to 80 degrees as an incubator bed from what I've read. So I'll stick my little temperature probe. I'll probably just feed it up through here, and I'll put it in the middle of one of these cells and stick it down, not quite to the bottom, but just in there a ways. So I'm picking up the temperature down in that soil. So we are measuring in Fahrenheit. It says 54 right now, and it's set for 75 degrees, so I can. All right, we're coming up on about 10 days, and I remain optimistic. I see a couple little cracks forming on the top as though maybe something's trying to push through. But so far, all I've really seen is a bunch of compost weed seeds coming through. And what I'm noticing with those is they come out and they look pretty anemic and thin because it's pretty dark in here when the lights are off. There's not a lot of natural light. And I've got the natural light window over there, and so they're the little tiny sprouts of the weeds are reaching over towards the window. So even when the trees, if the trees do come up, they're going to need better light. And so I'm going to build just a little arts and crafts project today and get some inexpensive LED strip lights that can sit up above here that are grow lights, so that may stimulate some of the seedlings. I don't know if they need to see light coming up through the ground to pop out, but I'll go ahead and put that together today. I've got those coming, and I'll put them up in a day or two and see. I did look up online, and the original documentation I read said that they would germinate in about 6 days, five to 6 days. But I think that was just basically to start showing a root popping out of the seed. Other things I saw said 2 weeks to come out of the ground. So I'm still optimistic. Haven't seen any trees pop out yet, but I'll do this little craft project and see what we come up with. All right, so now we're at the 14-day mark. I've had these in the seeds in the bedding mix here for 14 days. So as you saw, I put together this frame, and I've got a set of lights that just showed up, and I'm going to hook those up, and I can show you once I get the lights hooked up. I'll get in closer and I can show you some exciting developments in here. All right, so here's the exciting part. I got the lights on so you can better see now, but I've got, that's a Doug Fir there, that's one there. And so looking at these rows, I can see there's one in the first row. Looks like 4 of the next row are emerging, 2 of the next row, 2 of the next row. For some reason, this one's doing better. I see more of them all along here. So this flat's doing really well. These 2 flats here, I did a little bit later, and so they may take that. It was 1 day later, but I see much less going on in there. And then the final flat over here, I see quite a few going, and that went the first day. So I don't know if something happened between the first day and the second day that I put seeds in. I don't think I put them in any differently, but we'll just let this one go. I see 1 going in here, so there are some starting to pop up in here. I'm keeping them moist, and I'm going to I'm going to set up a time-lapse camera and see what this looks like over time, because it'll be kind of fun to watch these pop out of the ground. So with the lights on now, I'm hoping they reach up and stand up, and I should see that pretty quickly because they do respond pretty well to light. All right, well, it's kind of graduation day. I've got a bunch of these that are growing. There's a few that have been dying off, and I think it's either overheating underneath or something's not quite right, but we've got a whole bunch. And so I went ahead and I got online and I found somebody was giving away a bunch of what are called band pots, and I went and I collected a whole bunch of those. I think I got close to 480 of them. And I got some little trays for them as well. And I'm gonna put together a mix, and I'm going to use some compost, some pumice, and then I grabbed some gravel or some soil from the site out at the coast, and I'm going to sift that out a little bit and make sure that there's no rocks or anything in it. And I'm going to mix up that kind of a compost mix for that. I'm going to try transplanting a few of these, and I've got 4 trays in my little nursery here. And so I can at least eliminate, like for instance, this tray, for whatever reason, only had one tree that grew in it, and it's not doing very well. So this tray did not go very well, and it may be that mat is either hotter or not hot enough underneath it. But the 2 end trays grew really well, so I'll put my now graduating ones into taller pots that are in the middle here, and I'll reset another round of trays because I've still got some seeds stratifying in the fridge, and hopefully get another batch of these going. So today we'll do that as the graduation, and that we'll see how those go in that new pot. And see, I will transplant, I probably won't transplant all of them just in case the transplanting is hard on them, because I'm just kind of experimenting as I go here. And certainly if you have a bunch of experience with nurseries and or growing conifers from get let me know, because I'd love to know what I'm doing wrong and how to improve it. But so far, at least I've got good coverage of the ones that have been growing, and I will get these graduated into their next pots. All right, the first 4 graduates. This is pretty exciting. This has been really fun to kind of do. It's a great thing to do in the winter when it's cold out and have the grow light in here and be able to come down and water them and see that progress day to day. It's really fun to see them changing. So I've got the 4 out of one of the flats that wasn't so successful. I've got that flat cleared out now, so I can dump its dirt and kind of repurpose it and put in a new set of seedlings and see if I can't get another batch going. I've got several more behind me that are actually pretty well populated, so I'll fill these in and get them transferred over and then get some more growing. What I'm going to do is, these are going to probably take about 2 years before they go in the ground. The gentleman that was kind enough to give me these trays does a lot of stuff with plants, and so he gave me a lot of tips and some good insight on what to do. These will probably be 2 years before they go into the final planting, but this summer I'll bring them out and I'll put them outside in sort of a nursery, a shelter that's semi-protected from sun and rain, and make sure that they start to kind of weather in so they get used to the weather extremes that will happen out there. This winter they'll be inside, then next winter they'll be outside, and then we'll plant them probably the following winter. And they should, they should get to be relatively tall in these taller. These are 1 foot tall. These little pots. So I'm going to do a video. I've got one coming up shortly here. If you want to subscribe, you can see it. That's kind of a progress report on the redwoods we planted and some of the other stuff that we've been transplanting out at the coast. And I will include these in that video, and annually I'll do a video and show the progress. So you saw a quick time lapse of these things just hatching, and then hopefully I can give you some sort of progress year to year as they grow and once they get planted. It'll be really fun to see this over time. It's been really fun even just for the year so far. So thanks for watching, and if you want to see that, like I said, subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until I see you next, I'll be out building.